Maggie.
Hi, I'm Mark, and this is
Spatial Report.
Welcome to the Esri Canada podcast that connects our user community with the latest and coolest trends in the world of ArcGIS. On today's show,
Are you looking for great data? We've got you covered as we introduce you to the ArcGIS Living Atlas of the world.
then we'll bring in an honorary GeoGeek to tell us more about finding and procuring imagery data.
And I'll be swinging for the fences as we play another game in the World Series of GIS Trivia, M versus M.
This episode will be very demure, very mindful, so let's get started. Maggie, Samson, it is October 2024. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I love this time of year. Spooky season, even if you don't care about Halloween, I do. It's so much fun.
I'm a Halloween hater for life, and I'm going to keep doing this. But I do love Thanksgiving, and we just had our Thanksgiving weekend. So I'm curious, if you had the perfect Thanksgiving meal, Maggie Samson, what would it be?
I like a pretty traditional Thanksgiving meal. I'm lucky that I have my aunt who hosts our Thanksgiving is from the United States. So she really goes hard on her Thanksgiving meals. And we get to have some American classics, bean casseroles and things, you know.
It's so nasty.
What, you don't like all your food sopping wet with soup? I love it.
God, so gross. And I'm sure our audience really needs to know this. Are you a white meat person or a dark meat person?
I don't even know if I like meat, but if I'm going to eat it, I'm going to go for the white because I can't really stomach the dark, honestly. Too slimy. I like my vegetables slimy and my meat dry, apparently.
The perfect combo. Yeah, as long as there's no bones. So I guess I got to go white meat, right?
Yeah. It's easier to eat.
That is the curse indeed. Well, speaking of curses, it's time to talk a little ArcGIS with our segment, What's Making Us Mappy? So Maggie, you can kick things off. What's making you mappy today?
Yeah, I mean, there's something that's making me mappy that's not necessarily the most useful thing in GIS, but it's a lot of fun. And I wanted to share it with everybody in case they haven't seen it. But every summer, the Landsat program with, NASA and USGS, they do like a Landsat summer camp. You can join online and they have little activities. And one of the activities from this past summer was Your Name in Landsat. So it takes the imagery, the satellite imagery, and they've found vague letters in landforms around the world. Some of them a little bit clearer than others, but you can type in your name and it'll make a little poster for you with every letter from a different landform in their satellite imagery around the world. It's pretty cute.
That is really cute. Yeah, I got to pump in Marky Poo to see what the O's look like at the end.
Yeah, it's pretty great. The only downside for me is they only have one G. So it's kind of a bummer. Every single poster I have, what I've generated always has the same two G's in the middle. So they got to work on finding more G's in nature. But otherwise, it's really fun. And you can try it out and see your name written across the earth. It's pretty cool.
Yes, and we'll definitely provide that link in our website. So if you want to check that out, you can. And we'll talk more about imagery coming up a little bit later. But I need to share some love for our developers. Remember them?
Oh, yeah.
We love our developers. So I just want to give a quick plug for the new ArcGIS Maps SDK for Flutter. Not Flubber, Flutter. I will get this right. So it's currently in beta 2, but it will be available in full release in a couple of months. And I'm sure you're wondering, what is Flutter? Well, Flutter is an open source SDK that's used to be able to build native apps. And it's been, even though it's open source, it's created by Google. So you may have heard of that company. Yes. And the whole idea of Flutter is it makes it easy for you to be able to make cross-platform apps using just the same code, right? So whether it's for Android or for Apple or for Windows, you just write your block of code and it will work for all those different technologies. And I've seen a couple of demos of it, and all the kids are using Flutter, and I can see why. It is actually really cool because, number one, the programming language is using something called Dart, and it's actually really easy. The code is not like complex. It's actually pretty simple. It uses a lot of widgets, so that's kind of makes it easy. The other thing I really love is this idea of hot reload. So sometimes when you're building apps, you need to compile them in order to test them. But here, it just automatically makes those changes as you're writing your code. There it is. There's my quick plug. I'm not a developer, but I'm really fascinating to see if more people will be using this. So the ArcGIS Maps SDK for Flutter. Check it out, Maggie.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't understand a lot of the words you said, but it sounds like a really cool one, and I like the name. It's cute, like butterflies or something.
Absolutely.
Coming up next, we're going to go inside the art to talk about the foremost collection of geographic information, the ArcGIS Living Atlas of the world.
At the heart of a good GIS is great data, but finding authoritative data can be challenging. Thankfully, Esri has created a library of geographic content from around the world. From boundaries to base maps and everything in between, the ArcGIS Living Atlas of the world provides data layers, maps, and apps that are ready to use.
To give us a tour of all the data you can discover in the ArcGIS Living Atlas, we welcome our tour guide, Milena McCrossan. She is the data and content curator for the Living Atlas at Esri Canada. Milena, thank you for joining us today and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. Excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here with us, and I'm ready to learn a lot from you, as I know this is something that I don't personally know a lot about. So hopefully we can get some more understanding today, and maybe you could start us off by giving us a little bit of an overview about what the ArcGIS Living Atlas of the world is and how it fits into the broader ArcGIS system.
Yeah, for sure. So Mark kind of hit the main points right off the bat.
Sorry.
No worries. That's great. So the ArcGIS Living Atlas of the World is the foremost collection of geographic information from around the world. But at its core, it really is a tool that helps build community by connecting individuals and organizations with the spatial content that they need for their everyday workflows. So the Living Atlas is ever evolving repository essentially of different maps, apps, data layers curated from the GIS global community. So these are items that are already available within ArcGIS Online, but they've been nominated and then accepted into the Living Atlas. And the best part about the Living Atlas is that it is built into the ArcGIS platform. So you can search and bring in content right from the Living Atlas, whether you're working within Map Viewer on ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Pro or any other apps such as ArcGIS Dashboards or Experience Builder.
Yeah, I use the Living Atlas data all the time, and it's so great how easy it is to be able to get to that data through the map viewer or through ArcGIS Pro. So I'm sure a lot of organizations and individuals want to try to leverage this. So how can they best use the Living Atlas for their projects?
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that every GIS professional knows that the most time consuming part of your project is either finding that really good authoritative data or cleaning that data.
Yeah.
And because all of the content in the Living Atlas is curated, it's curated to ensure that it meets a high level standard. So you can trust that what you find within the Living Atlas is not only authoritative, but it also is well documented and maintained. So traditionally, you would need to source your data, download that data, process and clean up that data, and then you could finally start your work. But having the Living Atlas accessible throughout the ArcGIS platform really makes it easy for users to quickly pull that data that they need right away into their already existing workflows. And what's great is your organization can not only leverage what's in the Living Atlas, but you can also nominate your own content and make it significantly easier for users of the GIS community to access your content and easily use it within their workflows as well.
Wow, sounds great. I know definitely finding data, cleaning data takes forever. So it's great to have a tool just to make that a little bit easier and start your projects off on the right foot. I know there's a lot of content in the Living Atlas, but could you tell us a little bit more about what types of data and maps are available? Maybe you can highlight some of the ones that you like best, some examples that are pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. So I have quite a few favorites, but I will narrow it down. So there is a wide range of content with the Living Atlas coming from both Esri and the GIS community. So whether or not that's those ready to use maps that you can just plug into your own dashboard or your own application, or whether that's imagery or data layers, there's also a ton of different story maps, dashboards, and apps that you can use as also inspiration for your own work, which is really cool. And I think the newest addition to Living Atlas is one of the coolest things that has been added in the last couple of years, and that's tools. So, this is where you can find deep learning packages here that can help you with things such as models that will help extract building footprints or to classify trees from high resolution imagery. So, you can just download that model and quickly use that. So, there's also a bunch of really unique map styles that you can download and use within your own maps. But I think in terms of data layers, one of the most beneficial things within the Living Atlas is the live feed services. So these are layers that either Esri Inc. or Esri Canada have created, and they are updated to reflect live data updates. So, as an example, climate change, we all know, is a really big topic right now, especially in the GIS community. And this has created a need for up to date, authoritative data around topics like natural disasters or weather related events. And Esri Canada has created quite a few live feed services, such as the Canadian Live Weather Alerts, Active Wildfires in Canada, and the Wildfire Smoke Forecast to help address those needs. And we also know that these weather related events impact other areas, such as planning or transportation. So we're actually currently rolling out some new live feed services for each province, showing road closures, accidents, and road conditions using 511 data. So, right now, the provinces that are up and running and live are Ontario, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. All of their 511 live feeds are up and running, and all the rest of the provinces are to come by the end of the year.
I had no idea. That is so cool. The 501 data is available through the Living Atlas. That's amazing.
Yes.
I gotta definitely take advantage of that. And I didn't know about the tools part either. Would be able
Yeah,
to
it's one of
find deep
those
learning tools. It's
yeah,
amazing.
one of those new things that not a lot of people know about. So, like to highlight that as well.
Oh, that's the best. All right. So you mentioned a little bit earlier about maybe an organization wants to nominate their own data. So are there opportunities for users to be able to contribute their own data to the Living Atlas?
Yes. So, like I mentioned, the Living Atlas is really about building community. So, you nominating your work to Living Atlas is a big part of that building community process. So, if you already have content that you are sharing publicly on ArcGIS Online, contributing it to the Living Atlas just exposes it in a different way to a large GIS community. So, having that Living Atlas badge on your content lends also credibility as it undergoes a curation process. So, this means your content does need to meet certain requirements before it is accepted into Living Atlas. So, those are things such as making sure your data is authoritative and it's well documented, whether that's sharing, any workflows you did to create the data, the update frequency, having those kind of mentioned in the item description, as well as any kind of pop-ups that you use within your maps, making sure there's no abbreviations or aliases to ensure that anyone who's viewing or using your content can easily understand the content itself. And the nomination process is actually very quick. So you simply log into your ArcGIS Online account on the Living Atlas website. There's a tab that says Contribute. You click there, you'll see all of your items come up, and you simply just choose which ones you like to nominate. And that's it. Very simple, very easy.
Yeah, it sounds pretty easy. Hopefully, some of our listeners will start contributing some more of their own data to the Living Atlas. Be really great to see. But you've covered a lot of stuff with us today, and I'm sure that there's even more things that people need to know about the Living Atlas or things you just want to highlight so they remember as a part of our conversation going forward. We always have to ask it, but we're just wondering, what are your 3 key takeaways for our audience today to know about the Living Atlas of the world?
Yeah, so I think the Living Atlas is really the hidden gem of the ArcGIS platform. And I find a lot of users are either not unaware that it exists or they're not really sure the full capabilities of what the Living Atlas can do in helping them with their workflows. So I really encourage everyone to take a peek around the Living Atlas, see what is available, and really take advantage of that great content that is available for you to use. But what's the best part is that you don't have to worry about maintaining it and you don't have to worry about storing that data either. That data is there easily for you to use. And I also really want to encourage everyone to consider nominating their content. Like I keep mentioning that it is a tool to build community and connect GIS users. So there are so many organizations out there producing really great data and really great apps and sharing that work through ArcGIS Online or their own hub sites, which is great. But filtering through the millions of content items on ArcGIS Online for a user is really hard to find maybe that really great content that you have. So I encourage you to nominate your content to Living Atlas so that we can highlight your great work and we can also make it a lot easier for others to find and use your really great data and apps as well.
Absolutely, 100%. So hopefully a lot of people out there have their great data and want to be able to share it to the Living Atlas. This is a great opportunity. And you're absolutely right. I love how you frame this as a hidden gem. It really is incredible the amount of data that you can find at the Living Atlas. So hopefully this conversation sparks some interest and hopefully our listeners will be able to take advantage of it. Milena, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for introducing us to the Living Atlas, and thank you for your time. And hopefully, we could do this again down the road.
Sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome. That was Milena McCrossan. She is Esri Canada's Living Atlas curator with the Geospatial Infrastructure team, and she joined us from Toronto.
After this short break, we're going to keep this data train rolling as we talk about imagery procurement with our GeoGeek.
From navigating everyday obstacles to tackling the most pressing issues facing our world today, tune in to Geographical Thinking to discover how geospatial solutions can help solve problems and drive positive change. My name is Michelle Brake, and I'll be your guide as we explore stories, ideas, and conversations through the lens of geography. Listen and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform.
It's now time for the GeoGeeks, our regular segment where we bring in a subject matter expert to tell us what's noteworthy in one of our core ArcGIS products. But to mix things up, we're going to welcome a special honorary GeoGeek for today's show.
That's right, but he's no stranger to the pod. Jeff Petillon is our imagery guru here at Esri Canada, and he appeared on the pod about a year ago and is back to drop some more imagery knowledge. Jeff, welcome back to Spatial Report.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Happy to be back. Looking forward to drop some raster and imagery knowledge for everyone today.
Last time you were here on the podcast, you talked about how drones can help capture high-resolution imagery, but there's got to be some other methods to be able to get that imagery in the hands of our GIS users. So what are some of those ways?
Yeah, and that's a really good point you bring up, and it's something I wasn't able to get to last time, but there's going to be a lot of scenarios where it probably doesn't make sense to use a drone to get imagery. And I think we can think of a lot of them. For example, there's going to be physical limits of actually how much area you can capture with a drone at a time. So, they're going to work great for smaller, what we call site level scale areas. But I know you probably wouldn't use a drone to capture imagery for an entire city. You could, it would just take you a really, really long time. So it wouldn't make sense. Other examples too are, drones are really good for getting up-to-date imagery, but, drones aren't time machines. How do we go about finding historical imagery? Or, what if you're looking for imagery for an area that you can't access, you don't live near? It wouldn't make sense to use a drone there. Not everyone even has a drone. So, lots of scenarios. And I think we can probably think of even more where, you wouldn't use a drone. So in these scenarios, it's going to make more sense to download or stream existing imagery. It's going to be a lot more cost effective and a lot easier in the long run.
That definitely makes sense, but I know people may want to use that imagery but don't know really where to start, where to get it from. So where can users go to download this existing imagery? Are there any reliable resources or sources that you can recommend to find those things?
Yeah, and I think that's, something every GIS user has experienced at least once in their career. You're looking for data, you're looking for imagery, and you don't know where to start. You might go on, the internet and start browsing, and, you might be getting into a wall or a dead end, and you're not finding what you want, or maybe what you find is, you can't trust it. You're not sure what the source is. So luckily for us, there's been tons of advances over the last few years, especially in ArcGIS, when it comes to getting data, when it comes to getting imagery data, making it a lot easier. And I think we heard about the Living Atlas earlier, and that's a great resource. So I don't want to focus too much on the Living Atlas today. I want to focus on some other resources, some other methods that might be new and our listeners might not be familiar with. So the two I want to focus on are stack connections in ArcGIS Pro and the new content store for ArcGIS.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so you kind of have me intrigued. I never really heard of these different options. So why don't we start with the first one? Let's talk more about Stack. What is that?
Yeah, so this is a really powerful functionality, and I think a lot of us aren't aware of it. And it's been a part of ArcGIS Pro now for about a year, but this technology has existed a lot longer than that. And so if we go back now, Stack, what it stands for, Spatio-Temporal Asset Catalogs. And this is an open standard for organizing and distributing geospatial data in the cloud. So with Stacks, we also have something called Stack APIs. And these are going to be endpoints letting us search, discover, access data catalogs that consist mostly of imagery and raster data. So starting in ArcGIS Pro 3.2, we've got a built-in capability in Pro that lets us interface with Stack APIs. So how this works is we're going to create a stack connection in ArcGIS Pro. And you can do that by going Insert, Connections, New Stack Connection. And once you're there, you'll see by default, we have a stack API already built into ArcGIS Pro, and it's called the Microsoft Planetary Computer. So this stack API is full of petabytes of information, of environmental monitoring data. So full of rasters, full of imagery, full of lots of data you can work with. So all we have to do to connect to this data and start bringing it into Pro is add in something called a cloud storage connection file. So there's tools that we can run to create these files, or we can just download them directly. They're available on a GitHub website. So that's my recommendation. Just search GitHub AMPC to find them. And maybe we can include a description or a link to where this data is. Once you have that set up, you can start connecting to the Microsoft Planetary Computer. There's going to be tons of imagery and rasters to connect to. If you're looking for satellite imagery, I recommend looking at the Sentinel-2, Landsat, and NAPE imagery collections that are available through this resource.
Sounds like a really exciting resource, but like you said, it does also sound pretty similar to what we talked about earlier with the Living Atlas of the world. So what exactly is different between Living Atlas and Stack?
Yeah, so you are right there. There is some similarities. A lot of these sources that you can get to in the Microsoft Planetary Computer make up larger collections on the Living Atlas. But using this method, we're able to search for exact dates, specific areas, even the amount of cloud cover that was present when these images were collected. Whereas the Living Atlas, you're often just connecting to imagery for the entire world, the most recent imagery. So if you want to fine tune, pinpoint that area you want to look at, especially for a certain day, you can do that using this method. And then once you bring in that imagery, bring in that raster data, you do have access to the source data as well. So if you want to export that, save it to your computer and use it again in the future, it's really easy using this method I described.
I had no idea you could do that. That's really cool. Now, I know sometimes when you get imagery data, the quality of the data, the resolution might not be the greatest, especially if it's really distributed. So where can you go if you wanted to get the good stuff, the high quality imagery data?
Yeah, so that's true. That's a good point. Some of these resources that I mentioned so far, they're probably going to be around a meter in resolution, stuff you get from the Living Atlas and from the Microsoft Planetary Computer. So if you're looking for that sub-centimeter scale, chances are you might have to pay for it. And that always hasn't been the easiest process to find imagery, to pay for imagery. But fortunately, we've simplified that process recently. So that's where the new content store for ArcGIS comes into play here. And it allows you to find and purchase high resolution imagery. So what this is going to be, it's a new web app. You connect to it with your ArcGIS account. From there, you can search for imagery for your area of interest. You're going to get lots of sources from, a lot of satellite imagery providers, including Esri partners. So you can trust this data. And since you are using your ArcGIS credentials, it lets you bring in your own layers too. So you can really pinpoint that area of interest for your projects. Once you have identified that location, you can just purchase imagery for that specific location. So you don't have to pay for a huge tile of imagery. You can really just get that area that you're focused on. So for example, if you're looking for imagery for your neighborhood, you don't have to purchase imagery for your entire city. That wasn't always the case in the past. For example, if you want to do analysis on a small area, you'd have to purchase imagery for a very large area. But with this case, you can really pinpoint that location down. And then once you've purchased it, from there, you can publish that to your ArcGIS Online account, push it over to your enterprise account, or you just download to your computer as well. And since you are using an Esri app, you can be comfortable and confident that it's going to be the correct file type. It's going to be supported for all those workflows you have across your ArcGIS system there.
Sounds like a great new tool that people can start using and making it a lot easier for sure to get that data. So you've definitely introduced us to sort of how to get started with the imagery and how to find this information. But is there any final things you want to leave us with today about procuring imagery data?
Yeah, so I would say, definitely recommend checking out these resources I have today. I think imagery is a cool way to, bring life to your data, bring life to your maps and your GIS projects. maybe you're not even looking for imagery data, but it's something to explore, something to experiment with. You can see our world in new ways, track changes, and just find new data. So why not give it a shot?
Absolutely. Makes sense. Thanks so much for sharing this with us today, Jeff. It's great to have you, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
That's Jeff Petillon. He's the product specialist for imagery with the product management group at Esri Canada, and he's joining us today from his home in Kelowna, BC.
Please allow me a few seconds to prepare my victory speech, as M versus M is next.
HOTTOGO. I'm hot to go for another round of our game show, M versus M.
I love it. That was great. Maybe we should be HOTTOGIS.
Oh, that's pretty good.
See what I did there?
That's good. Nice work, Mark.
Thank you very much. You can tell I have no idea what you're singing, but here we are. All right, the game show. As you know, I've got a bunch of little questions here. Get 3 right. Maggie wins again. Get 3 wrong. Mark will take the victory. So I'm very excited about today's game. Very excited because I have coined this game. Is that a thing? Okay, so that is the title of the game.
Is that a thing?
Is that a thing? So I'm going to read a potential tool or button that you would find in the user interface in ArcGIS Pro, and you're going to tell me if it's really a thing. Is this a thing or is it not a thing?
Okay.
And today we're going to focus on the ArcGIS Pro layout. All right.
Okay.
So I am going to read something, and if it's on the user interface in the default installation, then say it's a thing. And if it's not a thing, well, then it's not a thing. Okay? Makes sense? Sense.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Let's start in the north arrow category.
Great.
Is magnetic north left a thing?
Magnetic north left.
Yes.
And when you're saying layout, I guess I thought you meant like the actual physical structure of Pro. No, you mean like making layouts.
Like a layout, like making a page layout. Yeah.
That sounds fake. No.
It's real.
No.
So it is a north arrow type. The magnetic north left. The arrow just happens to be on the left-hand side of the arrow. So that's all that
Oh, wow.
Isn't that cute?
I'm not feeling confident. Okay, thanks, Mark. Let's go.
All right. So 1 for Mark, which I will accept. Okay, next. Let's go to the scale bars. Is there such thing as a hollow scale bar?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. There is. So
Yay.
yes, that is a scale bar type. Hollow does count. So
I can picture it in my mind, I think.
yeah, just like it's hollow.
Yeah.
It's an empty box. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, now we're going to go into table frame. So, does the bold orange heading with borders, is that a thing?
Yes.
Yes, it is indeed a type of table frame. It is indeed bold and orange, and there's
very specific. What's that for? Do you know?
Oh, he said like if you wanted to add in a table, just a format of how the table looks.
Yeah, it's just wonder why orange is is an option. Oh well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, how oranges and other colors aren't. So
yeah.
All right, I get it. All right, 2-1 for Mags. Let's go into the dynamic text. Is default geodatabase an option for dynamic text?
That's tough. I have worked with dynamic text lots of times for map series, but yeah, that sounds like something that would be an option.
No! You're right.
I am right? Yay, I thought so.
Yeah, you can identify the default geodatabase as dynamic text. How dare you?
Yeah, I make too many layouts, I guess.
You make too many layouts. Remember layouts? Remember when people made layouts? But no, lots of people still do.
I never made any nice ones, but I do remember layouts.
There you go. Brilliant. Well, I guess we all know what this means.
Yep. Get your reading voice ready.
Yes, get the reading voice ready. Here we go. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Spatial Report. Please check out our website at esri.ca/spatial report to learn more about the topics we covered today. We also post videos of our interview segments on the Esri Canada YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe to our monthly Getting Technical newsletter that highlights all the latest news in our technology. This podcast is brought to you by Esri Canada, a technology company that empowers people and organizations by the science of where. Maggie, it's been a pleasure and honor as always. We'll talk to you in a few weeks.
Sounds good. Talk to you then.
Awesome. Until then, happy mapping, everybody.